You know, it kind of makes sense now.
What's that?
The whole you and Faye thing.
What do you mean?
You don't see it?
Don't see what, Dalton?
Because the bohemian artist,
I don't know if that's fair, but okay.
Look at her apartment and yours. She lived in squalor.
That's a bit far.
A bit far, Adrian. You have books everywhere. There are books on the table. There's books on the floor.
There's books on books. Okay, point.
You
great.
eat a lot of soup.
My sodium content's a bit high. That's fine.
And if I recall, she kind of lived in poverty.
Oh, come on, Dalton. I got a lot of student loan payments right now.
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but she was also kind of an alcoholic.
Dalton, I have given up drinking. I haven't drank in 16 hours? 14 hours. 12-ish.
I'm just saying, Adrian, this is you.
That's not... You're right, I'm not doing anything with my life.
No.
I'm not doing anything with my life. It's just,
Well, I don't want to sound harsh, but...
This is what I am.
Oh, dear.
Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here with you for a book review of...
Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes.
So, Dalton, did you have any quotes that stood out?
I did, actually. I have a couple because I'm incredibly indecisive. And because you have ruined my life, I actually read with a highlighter and a pen this time around.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. The first quote that I have here is, "I was seeing them clearly for the first time. Not gods or even heroes, but just two men worried about getting something out of their work." I think that was the defining moment. This was late April, and I believe the operation began in March, so right about the time he was coming into some form of intelligence.
Right.
Intellect, however you want to say that. The other quote that I couldn't pick from is, "Now I understand one of the important reasons for going to college and getting an education is to learn that the things you believed in all your life aren't true, and that nothing is what it appears to be." Because I want to have some kind of reasoning for my insanity, so I'm like, oh, there's a quote about why I went to college,
right.
So I feel better about myself now.
I've got a liberal arts degree.
Yes, why not?
I've got three, actually.
Okay.
My first starts on page 32. "When I once told my mom I wanted to be a painter like Uncle Herman, my sister Norma said, 'Yeah, Charlie's going to be the artist of the family.' And Dad slapped her face and told her not to be so goddamn nasty to her brother. I don't know what an artist is, but if Norma got slapped for saying it, I guess it's not a nice thing." And that is, I like that quote because it sort of plays with that meta level of this novel. What is art and what does it do?
Okay.
And when you've got a novel explaining art, it's sort of, how much of it do you take with a grain of salt? Because it is art explaining art.
The brilliant symbolism of the father as the world. And, oh, you're an artist? I
Right in
like
the
it.
face, yeah.
Exactly.
My second quote is on page 207. "If you read your Bible, Charlie, you'd know that it's not meant for man to know more than was given to him to know by the Lord in the first place. The fruit of that tree was forbidden to man. Charlie, if you done anything you wasn't supposed to, like with the devil or something, maybe it ain't too late to get out of it. Maybe you could go back to being a good, simple man like you was before." And I think that plays on a lot of the ideas with, and I think we'll get into this later, that as he gains education, he doesn't so much become an anti-theist as he becomes an atheist through the fact that religion is something he thinks about less and less.
And that's actually one of my points in the reader's review here, and I think that's going to be something important to bring
Right.
up. So, anyway, the third quote.
My third quote is on page 156. "Bert was right when he praised Niemeyer and Strauss for devoting themselves to something important and uncertain rather than something insignificant and safe." And I think that's having made the journey to grad school for creative writing, I hope that is true.
Having given away 30 to 40 hours of your week to make a channel about books that you don't know what's going to happen, how true could it be? I mean,
I'm really rolling the dice big on that.
First and foremost, for someone who hasn't read Flowers for Algernon, which I believe is going to be hard to find, this is pretty popular.
Very popular throughout high schools.
High schools. Yeah. I'll bring that up later in my furious rant. But Flowers for Algernon is the story of Charlie Gordon. He's a mentally handicapped man who undergoes an operation to raise his IQ. Eventually, it comes to fruition that he becomes smarter than the professor and the doctor who performed the operation. He begins to question their motives and question just about everything.
Yeah.
And gets very philosophical, and then he starts to digress. He's aware of his forthcoming demise and does everything that he can to stop it until he gets back to Charlie Gordon from the beginning of the novel. Very emotional, very sad.
Right.
But so much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I think we both came into this novel with some type of fear because from our younger days, both of us, this was actually a very influential novel to us. But you grow up a little bit, you haven't gone back to it, you haven't reread it, and in the back of my mind there was this pervasive fear for the last 10, 15-ish years that what if that book's awful? What if I've just remember what if I remember it incorrectly? The story is there, but the writing is not.
And that's the thing, I remember enjoying it in high school. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. But I don't particularly remember it being so poignant that it stuck with me. So I was pleasantly surprised rereading this about how well done it actually was.
Right.
It felt right.
What are some things that stuck out to you?
I think, besides everything being different this time, is let's talk about religion in this novel.
Right.
Because I want to say this is reading as an atheist piece.
I think that might be fair. I don't know that it is overtly atheist. One of the things that gets me is all of the religious references in it. I don't know if you picked up on it at the beginning, but it starts in spring. Charlie's birthday is in spring. Charlie's about to turn 33 years old. These are all Jesus things, right?
Yes.
There's tons of references to Adam and Eve, and what is on page 16 here?
And there's just a lot of Christian references altogether, and a lot of mention of God, and that makes sense because the way I got this novel is Charlie was a Christian man. When he received just unlimited intelligence, he began to question that notion.
Right.
And only reverted back to it when he knew his demise was coming.
Right. And even then, the God that is referenced once he sees this end coming doesn't necessarily strike me as completely Christian. There are a few scenes later when he is beginning this demise that seem like nirvana, right? There's the point at the end where these little freezes that he goes into feel like nirvana, and that's not Christian, obviously.
No.
Right? So it strikes me. I can't find it right now, and I should have marked it. But
here on page 70. Just the example to say that again, this is there's definitely conversation about this. I never before heard anyone say that there might not be a God, and that frightened me because for the first time I began to think about what God means. Yeah. So just right there, plain and simple, this is. As he's gaining intelligence, he is beginning to question religion.
Right, and that's not even when he's at unlimited intelligence mark. That's as he's
is very
ascending.
early on.
Yeah.
Very early on in his intelligence. So I don't know if it is overtly atheist, but I honestly believe it has a lot of atheist tones to it.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know a lot about Daniel Keyes. I tried to read a little bit about him. He seems very private. I don't believe he's done much more than Flowers for Algernon.
Right.
At least nothing as big as Flowers for Algernon.
Right.
So,
which is a shame because this book is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And I think once we get into the writer's workshop, later in the week, we're going to talk a lot about that, because I was pleasantly surprised how well written it actually was.
And like I often talk about the holistic nature of writing, everything is really working cohesively in this piece. The writing on a superficial level works into the characters, works into the story, especially with very well done the way that Charlie, who is mentally disabled at the beginning, his writing is so consistent.
Yes.
And it does not come off in a mocking manner. This is a man who is trying but is incapable of the rules and procedures of the English language.
And not to get off topic with that, but from a writer's standpoint, wow. To be able to write that, that took a lot of work, a lot of time, and I would like to hope a lot of anger and fury from Mr. Keyes. Just
going back and seeing, like, for example, the first quote that I use has told a few times in it. T-O-L-L-D. Very consistent. The L-E-D is always L-L-D throughout those parts of the novel where Charlie is disabled.
Let's not move too far into talk just about Faye, but the piece overall starts out very analytic, it seems, with the operation, things like that. Towards the end, incredibly, overwhelmingly emotional. And maybe this is going to go back to what we talked about with Hemingway in Hills Like White Elephants. Maybe it's different every time you read it. Maybe this time around, now that I'm outside of high school and I've got a little bit more readership behind me, I found more emotional appeal to it. But just towards the end, when he's getting to his demise, that ruined my week. I was done at that point.
Well, and while this might be a different book every time you read it, I think that those things are definitely in the literature here, right? As soon as Algernon dies, and Charlie says, "Oh, well, that's probably in the cards," it becomes heartbreaking. I hate to use the cliche, and you see it in his writing. Like that's what's so beautiful about the way Keyes gets away with this here and these things. Like you mentioned, the epistolary form. You're getting 100% unadulterated Charlie.
Yes.
Right? Yes. You've got no one else here, and it's not even first person. This is recorded to be read later, and Charlie knows that. So he has reasons not to put everything down, and you feel him straining against that. You feel him going with it at times. Just expertly done.
It is wonderful. And, Algernon, we did mention, does die at the end. But just the last line, and again, this is in Charlie's very butchered writing that we saw at the beginning because he's completely regressed. Oh, I think we're well beyond spoiler alerts, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. P.S. Please, if you get a chance, put some flowers on Algernon's grave in the backyard. That hints at the fact that although he has regressed and he is the same Charlie, he still remembers roughly what has happened to him.
And that's another big thing in this novel for me is... Obviously, this was written basically with Freud in one hand and a pen in the other, right? And this pervasive idea that anything that happens to us is always there.
Yes.
The quote on 195, "Nothing in our minds is ever really gone." That is something that is played with throughout this novel that is, I'm not sure I believe it, but it's done so well here, and there's some science behind it that, yeah, maybe. I mean, I am allowed to be taken on that ride, despite the fact that I don't necessarily believe it.
And I think there is some comparison that could be made to Alzheimer's with this. Because although he has, regressed and he's lost everything that he had mentally, there are still that little sparks, if you would, moments of brilliance where he does remember where he's come from.
Right.
But then it's gone again. Which makes it, again, all the more just heartbreaking. Yeah. Just awful ending. but wonderful.
And if you want to get into metaphors with this, I think it's interesting to look at what if we've got the Jesus metaphor. So
Yes.
reading Charlie Gordon as God, maybe. I mean, you're starting relatively simple. You know, what was the universe? He's building everything, and then the whole Nietzsche God is dead thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if Charlie Gordon represents humankind in general? Or what about Charlie Gordon as Frankenstein's monster?
And that's a great point.
Yeah.
That is. I'm not a fan of Frankenstein.
Right.
I've read it one too many times, and it's awful.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can appreciate it, but still blatantly hate it.
Right.
But that really is a really good point, the comparisons between that, because yes, he has been given this intelligence by a creator. He rebels against said creator.
He is hated while he is intelligent.
Yes.
Right.
There are a lot of good mirror images there.
Yeah.
And there, again, you can even tie in the Christian notion with that, is once he has become what he was not supposed to be, what he was not made by God, he's
Right.
an abomination.
Right.
So there's that spark of brilliance, and there you go.
And to play back on the, we bring up Stephen King's Danse Macabre a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Gordon goes from The Thing Without a Name to the werewolf, back to The Thing Without a Name, doesn't he?
He does. And I think it's interesting to bring in horror to this, because this is obviously not a horror genre novel.
But it's terrifying.
But it is terrifying. And it's very hard to put a name on the genre for this besides just fiction. And that's something we
fiction,
brought
yeah.
up many times.
Yeah.
But no, there are a lot of horror elements to that, because that absolutely. What's more terrifying than Charlie Gordon's situation?
Right. Not only the potential loss of everything you know, but knowing it's coming.
Yes.
You
And
know?
that's just awful. Daniel Keyes, you're a bad man. Something I really do want to bring up, because this was important to me, is censorship with this novel.
Okay.
And I've told this story once before, but I will tell it again. When I read this in high school, someone complained on the Parent-Teacher Association, whatever you want to call them, and they took Sharpies and blacked out large portions of this novel. A lot of the scenes with Charlie and Faye, for obvious reasons that we can't talk about sex in high school. I come from a very small conservative town, and absolutely infuriates me, still to this day, that you would take this man's work, which we can both agree is well done, and butcher it.
Right. Especially when you consider the other ways that kids are learning about sex. My sex education came in health class freshman year from the varsity football coach, who was afraid to say penis or vagina. Vagina. Did I say vagina?
You may have, but
I don't know.
I appreciate the twang.
Well, that's how he said it though. Vagina. And when you compare that to this, right, getting in someone's psyche to learn about these things versus a bumbling idiot throwing around the bolded terms from a health book, which health was the most worthless class anyway. Why else would the varsity football coach be teaching it?
Ooh.
Let's be honest.
Shots fired.
Let's
I like
be honest.
it. Yes.
I was a football player in high school. But yeah, why put it on that level? And if you're really interested in freedom of speech, you should YouTube Christopher Hitchens on censorship and freedom of speech, because he makes some extremely compelling points, one of which is for someone to deem something unfit for popular consumption, they have to be consuming it,
Yes.
right? So these people had to have gone through and decided, yes, I don't like that one.
I'm gonna fire you up a little bit more. I've been waiting for this one, and you said Hitchens, so you brought it on yourself. Big Hitchens fan, by the way. Definitely check out that link.
Yeah.
They also censored the parts about God, because we should not be questioning God. And this reads, again, as a novel that questions God.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So, if anyone who happened to have had those classes and still has a copy of that particular book, or if there's one just sitting on the back shelf somewhere at some classroom collecting dust, I would absolutely love to have a copy of that, just so we could actually figure out what parts were deemed unreadable.
I am flabbergasted right now.
Yes.
Taking out the sex, I don't support it. I understand it, sort of. Taking out the parts questioning, like, is that even legal?
Probably not.
Is that even legal?
I don't have an answer, but that's what happened. And the absolute shame of that is that's probably still happening in certain schools. People are getting the watered down, trash version of this novel. All the good parts that make you think, all the good parts that make this good literature are just being blacked out with a Sharpie.
I wish you had prepped me for that.
I didn't. I wanted to hit you on the side of the face with that one. That made me feel so good. Thank you.
Now, you want to talk about the best part about that? These overt references to Nirvana that happen. I bet those people are too stupid to have known what that was.
I guarantee yes.
Yeah, those parts are still in the novel.
Which is why I would just love to have a copy of that somewhere. So I will actually do the best I can to find that, and maybe we will have to do a special review on censored Flowers for Algernon.
Yeah, if you can get hold of one of those. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
We might have to pause the video.
Are you gonna be okay?
I might not.
You want me to fan you, make you feel better?
I don't know.
What, do you have anything else you really want to talk about, Flowers for Algernon? What would you at least grade this if you have nothing else?
I would give this a solid 94, 95.
And that's what I was saying, right about that range. This is great.
Yeah.
And this was so surprisingly great to me, and I hate to say that. And maybe, again, I had the watered-down version. I actually didn't. I had an uncensored copy because I had a very lazy friend who did not go to class the day we had to turn him in. Thank you, Cody.
You rebel.
Rebel, reading the uncensored novel. But yeah, this was wonderful and just delightfully surprising, which makes it all the more upsetting that someone would try to ruin this.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. You have to take it from here.
Well, let us know if you have any thoughts on Flowers for Algernon. And since apparently this has just become the theme of this video, what do you think about censorship in novels? We'd love to hear your comments below.
If you did read it in high school, was it censored?
Yes, let us know what parts they took out, and hopefully we can just sit here and complain about it in our special viewers, special readers, whatever you want to call it, Flowers for Algernon.
Yeah, and I will do some complaining.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching another episode of Strip Cover Lit. It is part of our goal to bring you literature. Be that from the writer's perspective, the reader's perspective, be it from film, books, poetry, no matter what. That's part of our goal here.
The best of literature and writing almost every day of the week.
Right. So if you noticed something here that brought value to your writer's life, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button.
That really is what pushes us. I mean, we wake up every day, we're like, hey, how many people are actually following? How many people are watching? What can we do here? So make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. Join us every week, actually. Monday, we'll start your week off with a 6 list, get you back into your literary week. Tuesday, we'll hit you with our reader's review. Book review, pretty simple, easy, straightforward. We'll go back into another 6 list on Wednesday. Thursday, we do a little bit of something fun. We'll do challenges. We'll do tags.
Maybe
book hauls.
Maybe a makeup challenge.
A makeup challenge. We'll see what's coming. Friday, we'll hit you with a writer's quote of the week, get you through the weekend, make you think. Saturday, we'll hit a writer's workshop of the same book that we covered in the reader's review. And Sunday, we'll try to get our normal lives back in order to come right back on Monday.
So make sure not only that you hit the subscribe button, but that you follow us on Twitter at @StripCoverLit, @StripCover.
@StripCover on Twitter, because on Facebook, we're @StripCoverLit.
And on Instagram, we are...
On Instagram, we are @StripCoverLit.
I don't have the internet.
I know you don't. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, guys, and we'll see you next time.